The soul of a city is often difficult to define and truly connect with. No matter how many times you visit, there's always a sense that the true essence of the place lies with the entrepreneurs, creatives and eccentrics you often miss on a flying visit. And that history, geography and happenstance all converge to shape cities, not just civic leaders. Every year, our sibling title, Monocle, convenes an event that seeks to throw a searching lens on a city and its identity. The annual Quality of Life Conference becomes a jamboree for the most innovative, inspiring people in the region. It's a fulcrum of ideas and a dynamic social space for our readers to come together and meet people who are pursuing beautiful projects and bold new ideas. This year, the Spanish city of Barcelona took the mantle, and I can safely say that it did not disappoint. The Catalan capital's generous ebullience and sumptuous architecture shone brightly throughout the event. Konfekt tagged along too, for 3 days of inspiring discussions, intimate conversations and some much-needed social time. In between drinks, dinners, twirls on the dance floor and tours, the question on everyone's lips was how to live a long, fruitful life. What makes our cities better, more joyful and more profound? From the opening evening soiree on the rooftop of the Mirror Foundation to a swim in the Olympic pool overlooking the city, the sun shone and the debate flowed. I am Sophie Grove and this is Konfekt Corner, live from Barcelona.
Building Rowse, it was something so pure. I really wanted to put all my expertise in terms of building a community, building something different into a project.
I'm a big believer in slowing down fashion. I'm not saying in everything. I think it's a mixture, innovation and freshness, and every 6 months coming out with something new I think is really important.
Every worker would kind of adapt it to their needs, like maybe even an apron, you're going to attach it in the front, attach it in the back, put a torch on it. And we try to empower these kind of adaptations so that everyone can kind of adapt that garment to their needs and their what they like.
Welcome to Konfekt Corner. I'm your host, Sophie Grove, here in Barcelona as we conclude an amazing 3-day event, the annual Monocle Quality of Life Conference. We're here in the midst of our farewell brunch at La Fábrica, which is an amazing former cement factory by Bofil Architecture, and I'm delighted to be joined by Natalie Theodosi, Konfekt's fashion director. Hello, Natalie.
Hi, Sophie.
It's wonderful to be under these palm trees in this beautiful garden.
Yeah, I think we've recorded podcasts in lots of different locations, but this one is a real highlight.
Yeah, the beautiful twittering of birds keeps on interrupting us on the sound check, which I really loved. But we've had an amazing couple of days here in Barcelona. So many discussions on design, fashion, and just quality of life, beauty. There was an absolutely fantastic panel on lighting. But for you, what's been the highlight?
I'm so inspired by so many different things. I think there were panels outside. Of course, I had my eye on all the fashion panels, which were incredible. But I loved also, you did a panel on geopolitics, and there was a lot discussed there. And at some point, we were thinking that it might be hard to find an optimistic view. But I thought it was incredible when you spoke about the power of community, knowing your neighbor, and just using creativity at a time when everyone is speaking about AI, and just daring to break the rules and rethink different systems, different ways of doing business. And I thought that was such a universal theme that can be applied to fashion, to architecture, to politics, that it really struck me, and it's something that I keep thinking about.
It's interesting because it's in the context of national security. You wouldn't have thought knowing your neighbour and reading your local newspaper is important, but that was a theme that came up at the beginning, and then throughout the day, and we ended with this incredible display of Catalan tradition of this castell, where it's a human tower essentially, and we all essentially sobbed very briefly. Did you cry as well?
I did, and I think it was because it was so moving to see how much trust and the bond between those people and the tradition and how they spoke afterwards about it. It's an intergenerational activity. Parents go with their children. They spend 3 hours twice a week, I think they said. And it's incredible. It's a skill, but it was also the bond and then the emotion. And earlier in the day, people also spoke about just a simple idea of shared humanity and how important, how that can change everything. And it was a perfect note to end on, and it was the display of all the things that we were speaking about.
So we have plucked a few of the most amazing panellists and brought them to this amazing garden for some further discussion about fashion, about just lifestyle here in Barcelona. And there's an amazing cosmetics brand and pioneer who's going to join us. So it's a kind of after party. It's kind of like the morning after the night before. I hope we can just further debate and tease out some of those beautiful themes that we just discussed. Our first guest is one of the creative minds behind Rowse. Founded on the pillars of authenticity and connection with nature, Rowse has established itself as a benchmark in the natural cosmetics sector. On a particularly grey Parisian afternoon in 2018, Nuria Val, a photographer, and Gabriella Salford, a marketing expert in the cosmetics sector, met for the first time. Their shared love of plants and their perspective for approaching nature through beauty led them to find a way to celebrate raw beauty. Their ethos is reconnecting the environment with people, including their ever-growing community of artists, creatives and plant lovers all over the globe. And here to join us and share her quest for natural beauty is Nuria. Welcome to the programme.
Thank you so much.
It's amazing to have you here and in Barcelona on this beautiful, beautiful morning, because I really feel that Rowse is such an embodiment of this city and this lifestyle, this spirit that you have here, which is so creative and very close to nature. We're surrounded by these beautiful palm trees and you feel this very wonderful sensibility. Give me a sense of how the brand is a reflection of your life, your environment.
I think the Mediterranean, it's a huge part of my inspiration. Since I was a child, I used to be at the beach all the time and enjoying nature in Barcelona. It's so beautiful because you have the mountains, you have the sea, you have many things very close. And I always say my biggest inspiration in the city is walking everywhere, because you have many different things in terms of architecture, nature, creative people that surrounds you, and it kind of creates this community of people who is trying to do something different. And I think it's one of the things that inspired the project so much.
And it's a very joyful project, but I want to take you back to that grey afternoon in Paris in 2018 and the moment really of connection with your co-founder. I mean, give us a sense of what you were doing at that time and the moment that really transformed your life and became the genesis for the brand.
Yes, so I met my co-founder Gabriella in Paris. I was joining Fashion Week with a fashion brand, a huge fashion brand. And I used to work as a creative, developing projects in terms of photography, creative concepts for campaigns, for brands. I really felt the need at that time to develop something for myself. And then I was, a friend of us introduced each other and it was love at first sight. And I remember having this conversation about plants, about nature, about how we take care of ourselves. And we decided to start a project together.
And so how did you go from that moment to really generating beauty brand? You know, the cosmetics industry has shifted a lot and people are very much more focused now on, you know, clean beauty and natural products and knowing the provenance of their products, perhaps more than they even were in 2018. But how did you gain that expertise and decide upon how you're going to create this brand as, you know, very physically? I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. It's very aroma-centric. So I wondered how important that's been for you, the scents, the fragrances, but also the science behind some of it.
Yes, so building a company itself is something that I haven't experienced before. So that's a difficult part of the process. But for me, building Rowse, it was something so pure. I really wanted to put all my expertise in terms of building a community, building something different into a project. So I had the opportunity to build something that didn't exist at the moment, because for me, skincare at that time, it wasn't something that I really didn't enjoy. I didn't connect with anything that I was using. So in terms of creativity, I really wanted to bring to the community something that they could understand and they could experience, and they could know where the ingredients come from, how do the product smell, how, and then nature was a huge part of my inspiration. At the end, when I see my work, everything is related to nature. In terms of, in professional basis, but also in personal, we have Olive Grove Farm, and it's a personal project. And I think at the end, everything was so connected. So this part for me was kind of super organic to build. And of course, for the products, we had some people developing the products for us that joined since the very beginning because they felt in love with the project. So I think when you are building something that it's very authentic and it's meaningful and it's different, good people will join and will be part of it. And so we had, since the very first product, which it was the winter body oil, and we still have it, and it's still one of the best sellers. We did a lot of research, almost a year, to understand what we were bringing to people. And we understood that the purest thing that you can get from a plant is an oil. So we said, okay, let's work on a body oil, but let's use plants that grow in very extreme winter conditions, so it makes sense to use it in winter, and that's how we started with the first product. And also, as I said before, I think the feeling of using a product is so important for us. So if you smell the winter body oil and you close your eyes, it really takes you to a forest, like humid, so you can really have this sense when you apply it. And then we have the summer body oil, which is a sunset. So for me, in terms of creativity, it was so important to make people have this feeling because, yeah.
And it reminds me, I mean, you worked in the fashion industry. I wonder how that came to bear on the brand, because your concept around skincare is very seasonal. And in fact, we often forget that our skin changes so much from season to season. It's almost, your skin is so different in the depths of winter than it is high summer, that you need to respond to that. And I think people are really coming round to that idea. But maybe it's a reflection of your time in fashion when it's very seasonal and you're constantly tuning in to the kind of very small nuances of the weather and how these micro seasons even. Give us a sense of that kind of pivot for you into away from fashion and into skincare, and how that inspired you.
I think even though I never felt so into fashion, I think it had a huge inspiration for me, because at the end I was able, in terms of creativity, to elevate the brand and work by season and have this sense of treating the products different every season. But also, what inspired the seasons for us was the product itself. We tried to eat seasonal food depending on the month and depending on the season. Why we don't do the same with the skin? At the end, is it's part of the food that we eat. So I think all connected allow me to build something on the skincare that really works with the Mediterranean, but also with places where we find the ingredients, and it's like maybe Iceland. My work as a creative was to bring these ingredients to the people, and I really enjoyed this part. I think also I enjoyed this a lot at the beginning, because the company, it was very small, I had the chance to really create this lifestyle.
I love the way these chirping birds are really the soundtrack to this interview. But give me a sense also, you have a physical space here in Barcelona, which is a beautiful there's a Pilates element, there's a beautiful little cafe you can go in and have treatments. I mean, I wonder how that's been an extension of the brand. You have another one planned in Madrid. Give us a sense into the philosophy that goes beyond skincare. Is more of a lifestyle and more of a philosophy.
I always treat Rowse as a lifestyle brand. I think it's a huge part of what we are building. I feel we've been fighting against the skin for many years. We were trying to delete the wrinkles. We were trying to feel different from what we are. And I think I like to think of Rowse as something that it's going to make you feel better, but it's going to respect you as well. So I think the offline part was something very important, because the skin is a reflection of how you feel and how you eat. And, that's why we wanted to build a space that we could share. Doing Pilates retreats, doing cooking sessions, doing art exhibitions. So the space is open to host different projects. And during these years of having this space has been like that. And in Madrid, we are building something a bit different, but I think it's going to be also so special. It's going to be like a beauty bar where you can have a treatment, but it's going to be open, so you're going to share this time with some other people doing this treatment. And then it's going to be a room with books that you can read. And then you can have a coffee, but with some sort of collagen, of vegan collagen that you can add. So the idea is to connect with many different things. But the most important, I think, is to gift you with that time to share, or just like be there reading a book while you are doing a treatment. So
the image of you always sticks in my mind, because we reported on Rowse very early on when you founded, and it was very early on in Konfekt's life, and you're leaping into the sea, and you have this amazing lifestyle. It's always struck me, it was the early spring, how brave and courageous you were to do that for us at that moment in your life. But it's wonderful to see you again, and thank you so much for joining me on the show.
Thank you so much.
Adolfo Domínguez is a brand highly coveted globally. He started his eponymous brand in Galicia in 1976, creating loose, free designs for life in a post-Franco Spain. Today, the label for men and women is run by his daughter, Adriana, who has remade the company while remaining true to its key beliefs, that we should take care of the environment and that wrinkles are beautiful. I spoke to Adriana just after her session with Natalie.
Many times I feel like a very unusual CEO, but I'm more artistic than usually CEOs are. And so the way I started, I actually studied business, but then I was an actress for a while, and I've done 5 films, and I worked with De Niro, and I really had a film career. But then I stopped, and it was probably because I was already collaborating with the brand in its storytelling, so more like communication. And then for the last 8 years, I've become first general manager, which was quite a stretch for me, and then CEO, and I'm now executive president, which is CEO and president. I think the fact, many people ask me, has the acting added anything to the way that you manage? And I think I thought I didn't, because it's so different. But I think one thing that's really important in acting, especially I did method acting in New York, is listening. I used to have a teacher who said, acting is reacting. It's really listening. If you don't listen, you're a really bad actor. And so I think with managing companies, if you don't listen, you are necessarily a very bad manager, because you don't know what's in front of you. And so, I think what I've done is really looked at what I had in front of me, and try to be really honest and really truthful about the business side, but also the artistic side. When we're going to be 50 next year in 2026, so just a few months ahead, and the brand had been around for such a long time that we were a bit dusty, so I had to be really authentic about that and say, if we want to vibrate again, I have to know where we're at and kind of destroy the current process of how we're doing things and build something new. So,
And tell me about, it's fascinating to hear that, and also to see some of the theatricality that you see in the garments and see in the brand, feeding back to your own biography. But I wondered how your time, living abroad for so many years, came to bear on bringing back that sensibility of Spanishness and made in Spain and that Galician heritage that you've drawn on. How did you kind of reconnect with that very local side from a creative point of view, and also from just a provenance and manufacturing point of view?
Well, I think what's really interesting about fashion in society is that it's a business that is really about picking up what's coming next, It's really about rethinking who we are as a society, what our values are, what's poetic to us, and it's artistic. It really pushes whatever we are forward. And so I lived in New York and Los Angeles and Paris and London and so many places, and there is a strong Spanish fashion business going on. There are many Spanish businesses, and they were mostly doing a sort of international vibe, like they pretend they're in London or New York or wherever, or just are basically not Spanish, let's say. And I just felt that what was really authentic and modern and different and valuable for today's world, where you travel and it's so easy to, especially in malls and things, it's kind of like copy-paste. It's the same thing over and over because it's the same brands. I think it's really interesting to just not be that, basically. So if you're not going to be that, what are you going to be? The best thing to be is yourself, right? But Galicia was not like a fashion destination, and it was not fashionable. And, when I lived in Los Angeles, I remember I was coming from New York. This was 20-something years ago. Los Angeles was not fashionable at all. And through the year, and nobody wanted to go there, especially people from New York. And now it's not like that, because the people from Los Angeles have rebuilt it. They've made it cool, the people from Venice and all of that. And so I think many times the only thing that's missing to any part of the world to become interesting is for the people who live there to make it so, to build the stories around it. And so that's what I've attempted to do.
I mean, it's fascinating to hear you talk to Natalie about the idea of being premium. There's this almost schism in fashion between luxury and then fast, and you're in the middle, but you're reinventing that space to some extent. You were talking about this pyramid that you've got this kind of model where there is actually a very luxury and crafted product at the very top, and then there's also an amazing accessible and everyday garment sort of bottom tier, as you might call it. Tell me about that and how you've navigated being premium and reinvented being premium.
Well, you were saying about the bottom, people naming and names are just very important. So that people used to call them basics, and I don't call them that. I call them essentials, because essentials has a premiumness to it. We all have essentials. Every single wardrobe is built upon essentials. So, but you want them to be quality. You want them to be perfect, and that's really the language of minimalism. So what I'm trying to do with our design teams is to really up the game in our essentials, to have them better quality, better design, but that's sometimes very difficult because collections are really big in companies and they have to be renewed every 6 months. And so designers are really struggling to stay afloat from so much production and so much design. So I'm a big believer in slowing down fashion. I'm not saying in everything. I think it's a mixture, innovation and freshness, and every 6 months coming out with something new I think is really important, even as an artistic and poetic pursuit. But I also think it's like a cake, you have to sustain it with the actual cake, not just frosting, And so I think timelessness is very important. I personally dress very timeless because my life is so hectic that I really need some silence somewhere in my life, and I need a uniform basically. And so I think there are many people like me. It used to be that men wanted uniforms, but now women do as well, because as they've adapted to very hectic lifestyles, very demanding lifestyles, you just need some brain space, So
the liberation of just not having to think at all about, and I think it's interesting we don't talk about heritage very often in the premium space, but very much the kind of theme in luxury is to really almost be very nostalgic. Everything's an investment, everything is a timeless piece for life. Do you hope that your your pieces will stay with people and are kind of companions for the long haul?
It's really interesting because we've just signed with the University of Barcelona sustainability, I don't know how you say it, cátedra. So it's like a university professor is going to lead it, and we're going to investigate upon durability. And for me, other than the physical durability, what I'm really interested in emotional durability. Because I think the big problem with fast fashion is that, you may really like a piece, but that piece is not built to last. So you're going to lose it really, really soon. And then you'll just have to find another favorite piece, So you can't really develop a relationship with a jumper for like 10, 15, 20 years. And you used to. This is nothing new. What I'm saying is like old as time. But it's just we've moved away from rooting ourselves in life, in places we're on the move the whole time. And I think with wardrobes, it's the same thing. I think we should have some pieces that anchor us, that are really us,
That was Adriana Domínguez speaking to me earlier. This is Konfekt Corner. Well, what makes a good uniform and what sets it apart from the rest? Bastida for Work is a design studio focused on the development of textile products and high-end workwear produced locally and with materials to have a lower environmental impact. Their product is sought all over the world, inspired by the Bauhaus and minimalism and Japanese heritage, with the warmth of the Med thrown in there too. Joining me is Nagore Vitali and Martha Soldevilla. Wonderful to see you again, because you were on stage yesterday with Natalie Theodosi, who's also by my side again. And it was such an amazing conversation. So we want to pick up on some of that and press you further on some very intriguing aspects of the uniform and also your work. But maybe you could just start by giving us a brief introduction to you and how this amazing brand evolved.
Thank you very much for having us also here in the radio today. And we start working in fashion industry, but we really wanted to find another way of creating garments and producing out of the fashion calendar. So we really find in workwear a way, a more sustainable way of doing garments. When we met each other with Marta, it was amazing to find a partner for this way, for this project. And we find workwear this way of creating.
We met while working in the sustainable industry, and even we were quite proud of working in sustainability inside fashion. We realized that it's kind of hard to talk about sustainability when you're inside of the fashion industry and all the calendar, as Nagore said, and how it works and the sales and everything. And we start kind of thinking, how could we find a way to express ourselves and not feel hypocrite when talking about sustainability. And actually moving to workwear was even a change in the way we design, because now we feel more that we are product designers rather than fashion designers. Because when we design garments, we put way more attention on the functionality, how you feel on them, how comfortable they are, how can you make them even more comfortable, or if they need to have like pleats or any strategic function that allows you to move better on them. And also what we do is that once we launch these garments, we keep kind of gathering feedbacks from the clients who have them, and we make editions of them. So once we have to relaunch a production, we take the notes that we've gathered from the clients and try to improve them, or if we see something it's not working or it's not looking good on them, we also improve it. And all of our garments are you can buy them throughout the time, and they are in a permanent collection, but we keep improving them with little details so that the experience for the ones who wear them is improved.
So you've got the permanent collection, and then you create custom pieces as well for some of your hospitality clients and other industries that you work with. But you also speak about still, even though practicalities is so important, you're still putting attention into storytelling and having these conversations with your clients about who they are, what they represent when you're designing uniforms. So Tell us a little bit about your process and the importance of storytelling, even within workwear and within items that are more practical.
Totally. We need to ask questions to our client and to understand very well how is the company and also what they need in daily lives for the workers. So actually we ask for all the brand identity, like also how the interior design is, as we want to know everything about their world, so we can understand and we can assess them, like what's the best piece, the best garment for them. And also we usually use these methodologies, design methodologies, for expressing this through the garments, like what kind of color is the best, or what shapes are good for expressing these values that you want to evoke with the garments. And also for the workers, it's something that could be very good for them, not only wearing something that is more comfortable. It's also about having, like, feeling a team, or also that they can feel that they have kind of more dignity. Yeah.
It's really interesting because I think in fashion, people are looking for their own personal uniform to some extent these days, but there's still an ambivalence around the idea of a uniform, that it takes away from your creativity, your self-expression, which in a sense it does, because you're prescribing it for people, but it's also very liberating, and it can, as you say, create culture and fuse culture. And you can see it in schools, you can see it in military organizations. I wondered, as a uniform as a concept, do you think that the perception of it is shifting? We're changing our relationship with that idea. It's not seen as an old-fashioned thing strictly.
Yeah, that is something that we always try to, I don't know how to say it, but we are always in between two worlds, because actually the word uniform comes from unifying, and we at the beginning we tried to not use it, but it's quite hard to make the people understand what you do without talking about uniform. But actually the word workwear is way more accurate, and we don't even have this word in Spain. There's it's ropa de trabajo, but it's like working clothes. I think that pret-a-porter, the revolution of the pret-a-porter during the 20th century, made everyone be allowed to express themselves through fashion at affordable prices, and uniform got kind of unvalued, or a lot of people stopped using it. Also, the jobs change a lot. People is working more in offices than before. Some of the professions are being lost, and all this process I have the feeling that the uniform has suffered a lot. And now it's we realize that some crafts are being missed, and we kind of try to bring them back. And when bringing them back, they come along with the uniform and all their surroundings. We realize also that the clothes that we get to buy in the market, they are not thought for it, or they are not as much comfortable. And also the fact that you can, I have trousers that I use on my day-to-day as some sort of uniforms, and then they have gone wasted, and I can't buy them again, even thrifting on vintage stores. And when you have a garment that it's comfortable for you and that kind of goes with you day by day, it's nice that you can buy it again.
And definitely nowadays I think that there is this rethinking of the uniform, and it's not about uniformity and everyone has to be the same. It's about this, to have a good garment and comfortable garment to do your profession. And it's also very nice when you see same garment in different sectors and how they do themselves.
When you work with a garment, every worker would kind of adapt it to their needs. Maybe even an apron, you can attach it in the front, attach it in the back, put a torch on it, or you can play a lot with it. And we try to empower these kind of adaptations so that everyone can kind of adapt that garment to their needs and their what they like and what they feel most comfortable with. So among all the concept of uniforming or losing the expression on the clothes when you wear a uniform, I think it has a lot to say also on how you wear it.
And speaking about kind of a return to some older values or ways of dressing, the role of heritage within your business is quite interesting because, of course, you're both very young. It's a young business, but that you still value heritage. And I know that you grew up in families who are in the textile industry and you work in an old factory in Terrassa. So can you speak a little bit about that and about the role of heritage and upholding craft traditions from Spain and beyond as well?
It's curious because, actually our grandfathers were in the textile industry both. My grandfather was tailored and he ran a business in Bilbao, in the Basque Country, and actually Marta's grandfather had a textile factory. And that's why also we are established in Terrassa. It's a very nice place. Well, you can enjoy us other day and see everything. And I think that also that's why Marta and me, we connect each other because we have this passion of crafts, of this heritage, professions, and we started in hospitality sector, but then we are very interested in others and how this tradition and these professions can be very interesting for us.
When we communicate the work behind the clothing industry and how it is made and what it takes time, and since we buy a lot of garments that come from overseas, we can't be conscious of how long they take to do and what they cost. So we try to put this in value, and also all of we do it's produced in Spain or Portugal, and also by kind of showcasing the work of the ones wearing. So it's this dialogue between our craft and other crafts, and I think that's what keeps us alive and what makes us enjoy the most what we do. That when we meet new people that are looking for uniforms, we have the chance to talk to them and understand what they do. And every client is like a new history, even if they have similar crafts, everyone does it their way and they have their routines and they everything. It's so romantic and somehow.
And do you have any examples of companies that you've worked with that have really responded well to your interventions? Because I think it's interesting to think beyond maybe even hospitality and to other sectors. How has a uniform altered the way they think about their environment at work?
I mean, there are different stages where the uniform can affect a lot. The first project we do for Mage, it was a complete success because it was a cheese store in the center of Madrid. Actually, they appeared in Konfekt as well. And it was beautiful because selling cheese in Madrid is you have a cheese store, but if you are sourcing cheese in people who makes it in a craft way, and there are even cheeses that nowadays are in instincting because people is not following the same methodology as before. So with the uniform and the amazing interior design of the store, we kind of managed to create this atmosphere. When you get in the store, it looks like you are getting into not a factory, but somewhere where cheese is the most valued product, and it's the care they do. They take the cheese and how they attend their customers and everything. But the uniform, I think it's very meaningful in this experience.
And now that brings us to the end of this episode of Konfekt Corner. My thanks as ever to Nagore Vitali, Marta Sodevilla, Adriana Domínguez, Nuria Val and Natalie Theodosi, as ever, for joining me here today. A special thanks to La Fabrica for hosting us here in Barcelona. Konfekt Corner is produced and edited by Carlotta Rebello and Steph Chungu. The new issue of Konfekt magazine is out now. You can grab a copy or subscribe by heading to konfektmagazine.com. Until next time, from me, Sophie Grove, goodbye and thanks for listening.